Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode, we have Mrs. Erin Wilder of Sod Solution Pros. It was an incredible episode with so much great content discussing all the different areas, specifically on her journey and what she's accomplished through her time as a sod farmer, moving into a role at Sod Solution and expanding the company so much and being a part of that expansion and truly providing so many sports field managers, golf course superintendents, homeowners, and so many more with really important knowledge and providing them the best varieties of turf grass and providing them the correct way of growing the different patent turf grasses that Sod Solution has. And truly, her work never stops, and the way that she is passionate about everything that comes with turf grass management is truly inspiring. From her time where she worked to defend local high schools and community centers to prevent artificial turf from being put in because of the dangers that are presented, and just overall including lobbying in Florida to ensure that turf grass managers are able to do their job the best they can and obviously the safest they can. We really dive into environmental stewardship and how we as sports field managers and golf course superintendents are truly ones that are going to carry on that torch and provide an incredible environmentally safe space. And it was just awesome to have her on because again, someone so passionate about everything that we're doing truly shows what is incredible about this industry. And we had an absolute blast. Erin, we cannot thank you enough. Everybody, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. All right. Welcome to the 103rd episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller, with your co-host, Liz Rice. Today, we have on an incredible guest. We have Erin Wilder, the Executive Director of Business and Professional Development for Sod Solutions. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, it's been a chaotic couple of weeks heading into Christmas, but we just got back from Charlotte. We were at the ACC championship helping paint. So it's been a pretty chaotic couple of weeks for us, but we're here and we're having fun. So that's all that matters, right?
That's so fun. Yes, it is a busy time of year with the holidays, the end of the year, everything.
For sure. So I actually just saw you down at Myrtle Beach. We were actually with Chris Ball, good friend of Liz's actually. With everything, obviously these events are important. If you could sort of speak to what your role is at Sod Solutions and just the company as a whole, just sort of, again, being one of the top distributors, top genetic working, everything when it comes to turf grass management. If you could just give us a little overview and everything that you do.
Yeah. So I have worked with Sod Solutions for almost 17 years. And Sod Solutions is a company that works with breeders and universities all over the world to identify turf selections and take those turf selections to market. So we license producers all over the world. We have about 250 farms worldwide that grow one or multiple of our products. And a few years ago, we started a business unit called Sod Solutions Professionals. And with that unit, I now lead that business. And we work with end users, so sports turf managers, golf course superintendents, architects, builders, HOAs, anybody that we feel is in the professional sector, not a homeowner, to help them with selecting the right turf variety for their application, to source that variety with our network of growers, get it delivered, and to also get it installed, and then post-installation maintenance of it. So kind of like a full service opportunity for end users.
Absolutely. Now, 17 years is a long time, and there's a lot of great things that have happened in our industry over that time frame. In your experience, what have been some of those big moves that you've seen in the company? I know you guys with Latitude and all these new hybrids coming out, there's a lot of things that you guys push out into the market, and it's a game changer for so many, talking about, again, coming up to even up Chicago now is probably the most north there is when it comes to Bermudagrass. What has it been like for you seeing sort of that transition over the years to having what was a quality product 17 years ago to now that is just something out of this world compared to what was then when you first started?
So when I first started, I actually started in the industry a couple years before I started with Sod Solutions. My family has a sod farm in North Florida in row crops. We do a lot of things, but I began my career in the sod industry with my family farm. Started out selling grass. We were primarily a residential, commercial focused farm. I sold a lot of zoysia, a lot of St. Augustine, a lot of centipede. We didn't grow any Bermuda grass. Sold us out, started managing our operation, managed our sod operation for a couple of years, and then decided to spread my wings and ended up landing with Sod Solutions. I was licensed to grow Empire and Palmetto. So when I began with Sod Solutions in 2006, we had four grasses and we had just come out with the fourth grass. So to see where we sit today as a company with over 20 varieties, it's been truly incredible to see the scope of who we reach and the areas that we reach, and not having just a couple of grasses that any one time I walk into a facility, I know that there is something out there on the market that can fit their needs, whether it's a Sod Solutions variety or a non-Sod Solutions variety, because that's the advantage of what I do with Sod Solutions professionals is whatever the end user needs is what I want to get them. So, but I would say that Latitude and Northbridge have truly been some of the most incredible game changers on the market for our sports turf managers and golf course superintendents, because those are varieties that spread a larger geographical area that no other grass has really done before, especially when it comes to Bermuda grass, because 419 didn't have that cold tolerance, Celebration didn't have that cold tolerance to really push that far north, but also they work all the way down into the tropical climates. So it has been exciting to see what those varieties have taken to the market and the game changer they are for the end users that are using them.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more on the sense of the geographical, and it's even gotten broader as the years have gone on. A lot of the Northbridge and again, like you said, Latitude, they were really focusing and honing in on that transition zone. I remember I was at Virginia Tech when we put Latitude in. I think it was the second year that you guys had it out. And then obviously people like Travis Hogan in Kansas City with the Northbridge, who is, again, I don't know how he's perfected it, but he's perfected everything that he does, to the point where I was on the phone with Brandon Harden the other day, and they have it down at Mississippi State now, which is like, when you're talking about the range and the variety of it, like, it's incredible to see how far that can stretch from having those cold winters to, Mississippi State is starting to have colder winters, but at the same time, like, it's nothing like Kansas City. So it's truly incredible to see, again, that range with everything that's going on with that. Now you had mentioned the sod farm and everything with that. What was that sort of influencing you and going off on your own and being a part of the family farm and everything that goes into that? Because there are so many things that no one truly understands about operating that. What was sort of that background behind operating the farm and then bringing that to this next stage with Sod Solutions that, again, you now are covering in a whole different company inside Sod Solutions?
Yeah. So my father started our sod operation in the 80s. He left in the 90s to go run the dairy division, and my uncle took over. So I graduated from college after living in DC, came back home and was considering graduate school, and had decided at that point that my degree in psychology and what I had anticipated I wanted to do for my graduate school had changed. And I always had a passion for agriculture. I'm a seventh generation agricultural family from North Florida and grew up on our farm, spending my summers and weekends with my grandparents out there. And my dad and my uncle both mentioned to me, they said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming out and working at the farm?" And I kind of laughed at them. I said, "I don't really know anything about grass, but I'm sure I can figure it out." So I jumped on board and then ended up being successful in what I was doing. And so they said, "Hey, why don't you manage the production operation and grow our sod operation?" And so at the time when I started, we were a small operation, 100 acres. I mean, we're in North Florida. There's not a lot of major metropolitan areas around us. So I said, sure. And I grew us to over 350 acres. And that was an exciting opportunity and venture. I brought in new turf varieties, the licensed varieties, We were one of the only growers of El Toro, Georgia, in the state of Florida. And so I would ship all the way into the Keys from North Florida. It was a very exciting adventure, but realized that in my early to mid 20s, I didn't want to be on a farm at that point for the rest of my career, that I needed to kind of step out, spread my wings, and experience the world in other areas. So I started looking and was pleasantly connected with Sod Solutions. I knew who they were. I worked with them as a grower. And at that point, they were in a position of trying to kind of really connect growers and the agricultural side with understanding the education and the marketing side. And I really push education because that is the key of what we do with our end users on educating them on turf varieties. So because I had a production and also a sales and marketing background on the farm, and what Sod Solutions was doing at the time with really trying to say, hey, to a grower, you've got to get out there and tell your story and educate an end user in the early 2000s before really much social media had hit at that point. It was the perfect fit. So it gave me an opportunity to be able to walk into a farm and say, I understand what you're dealing with on an agricultural basis, but here's a different perspective and how we need to look at presenting yourself to your customer and your client. And as I grew and was successful with educating those end users, I started doing a lot of trade shows with Sod Solutions. And when I started, we had less than 10 employees. So now we're over 30. And so I did pretty much all of the trade shows. And we were at a point where we were doing 80 to 90 something shows a year. And I did a lot of those. And so that was an opportunity to get out there and meet people. And as I started to meet people, I am a people person. I love meeting new people. Just grew awareness on who Sod Solutions was and a brand, and really in depth became entrenched in the sports and the golf world because I was at these conferences and at these events and learning and meeting new people. So at that point was able to truly grow a different side of Sod Solutions, where we were very much producer focused interface, and we were starting to move into interface interactions with end users on marketing campaigns, but not a lot of direct interactions. And so I grew that whole side of the business on the professional side. Did a lot of lunch and learns with architects and would go and visit facilities and start working with end users about deciding what they wanted to install.
And I love how, like, everything that you're doing, it goes straight towards what you're trying to accomplish at Sod Solutions. Having the background is critical, and it's very hard to find people that have the background to do what needs to get done. Even like when we're talking about the superintendent versus sports field manager, there are people that have not had the construction side of things, that obviously sod producing and who you're trying to connect with in a way that your product is being pushed in the right way, and you have the right people you have your product in the right hands of those people. You're able to evaluate that because of your career and what you've done, which is incredible. So I can't thank you enough for that.
So what are some challenges you had while trying to grow the farm?
So while trying to grow the farm, we had plenty of acreage. So for me, it was truly just learning how to grow grass. And sounds surprising, but I don't have a degree in turfgrass management. Everything I know is hands-on knowledge. And being a young female in my 20s, and a farming career. I mean, yes, I grew up on the farm. My dad was a farmer, my grandfather, but it was a whole different side because I thought my whole life that I would work with children and I would be a child psychologist. That's what I expected to be.
I feel like once I'm done, but
Right. Hey, it's still a good degree to have.
Yes, very much so.
I think my biggest challenge was just the growing pains of learning and, of course, stumbling and making mistakes. But I utilized the resources, and there were individuals that I met in the industry attending shows that I would just call and say, hey, I don't know what I've done. Like, I need help. And so I really leaned on a lot of other growers in the area in Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas to help teach me and educate me, and then continue to do education through associations and conferences.
God bless you on all the traveling, by the way. 80 a year is no. I get on the plane once and that's it. Maybe twice if I'm not having to pay for it.
I don't have to do that anymore. My travel has scaled back significantly,
that's good.
I'm
Hopefully
grateful
the
for
two
it,
big
but it's a
ones, right?
love-hate.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
hopefully just the
love-hate
two big ones,
relationship.
right? Now with that, obviously going to all those shows and being a part of all of them, you've probably created one of the biggest networks of anyone in this industry. What has it been like, again, you being a people person, sort of developing those relationships and seeing them sort of come to fruition in your own work? And what is that feeling like when you see your product in maybe a friend's hands and they just thrive with it when it comes to the product that you guys, again, have incredible stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think the grasses speak for themselves. And I think our company and our owners have done a great job in making selections, and our research team and making these selections and narrowing down products that are successful. And a product is only as successful as the end user who's taking care of it. You can have a great product, and if it's not put into an application that is right for it, then it can fail. Too much shade, the weather, the temperatures aren't correct, et cetera. So when you work so hard to encourage a person or convince a person to specify that grass and go with it, and then to see it be successful and thrive, there's a lot of personal excitement, of course, for that. And you turn on the TV on any Saturday or Sunday or any sports application, and you can look at everybody and say, oh, that's my grass, that's my grass, that's my grass. And people are floored. But most of all, I just really enjoy being able to go to these facilities, walk on the field, hear what they love about it, and help them navigate any of their issues. And then at the end of the day, really connecting a turf manager like Travis Hogan with another turf manager that's managing Northbridge, and say, hey, here's some tips and tricks that he does, and this is what's successful. Because at the end of the day, that's really what I'm most of the time doing, is connecting them with somebody who is just as knowledgeable or even more knowledgeable about managing that turf variety than I am.
Absolutely. We actually have both here. We have 5 different ones, but we have Latitude and Northbridge, and they both do great. So yeah, it's incredible the product you guys put out.
Thank you.
If I could ask, what is the process like when it comes to, so Northbridge is coming out, you guys get the license for it. How do you move forward with getting that sort of in the Sod Solutions brand and then pushing it out, and ensuring that, again, it just continues to grow and continues to be a product that you can then say, okay, well, this might be a better option for you versus this, and just sort of just what's the process in getting it out and building upon what you are starting off at the very beginning with that product, if that sounded correct. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I follow what you're asking.
Sorry.
I'm going to approach it from 2 different angles, because I think there's 2 different angles to this. But that process has evolved significantly, especially on the 17 years. I mean, we started in the mid 90s. And so, it originally started with Toby Wagner, the owner of our company, throwing palmetto in the back of his truck and driving all around. I mean, this is just a totally different side of it. But, what we used to do is we used to have to walk in the door and convince a farm that this is a good product for them to grow. And then they license to grow it, and then they start selling it. And of course, we have to assist in providing them the materials to educate their customers on it and building brand recognition on a larger scale. Now, a lot of what we do and what I think is more successful is, we work with the breeders on taking those turf varieties and those programs, like we do with the University of Florida, with NC State, Texas A&M, Kansas, all of these institutions that are out there building these breeding programs. And either one, you partner with a state association and the growers to help raise money and fund the program to make selections, which then allows the growers to put trials in at their farms, and additionally put trials in the hands of some of their top customers to say, give me feedback on how this, and have real world observation. And that's a lot of what we do, even if it's not a joint release program, is what we call it, with a university and a group of growers. Then at the end of the day, if it's a variety that comes into our hands, is we put it out with some of our top growers and we say, hey, give this to some of your key customers and let's get feedback. Or the new celebration lines coming out of Mississippi State. I mean, we have those installed in a lot of golf courses and sports applications. And we're asking for them to say, hey, tell us what you like, and let's take that variety to market. So we've taken, now 5 grasses and we've narrowed it down to 3. And so it's really getting the turf grass in the hands of not just the grower on an agricultural side and what's easy to grow in production, because that's got to be successful, but it also has to be successful for the end user. So that's kind of a twofold answer for you.
Absolutely. Something else I'm very curious about, from the sod grower that you are and everything, what has it been like to see different strategies of growing occur? So something like a game on grass with your product versus, again, what is normally a traditional way of growing the sod. What has it been like to see things like that come about, and how have you maybe adapted your guys' approach? Maybe talking to a Chad Price saying, hey, we want this to be a game on grass specific. We don't want it to be anything but that. What is that process like? That definitely, the end question wasn't that good, but just what has the process been like, seeing the growth of sod production specifically for golf courses and sports fields?
So if I kind of step back, sod production is it's a huge variety in the production side. And a lot of what sod professionals, and some of the reason that we really went down this venture of ensuring it, is because I would get a lot of calls from turfgrass managers and say, hey, these are my specifications. Where can I find this? And so I would say, hey, okay, here's a handful of growers that grow, sports turf sod, grass that fits the sports application, not a residential commercial. And there is a very distinct line between a farm that is a residential commercial farm and a farm that is a professional end user farm. And taking the sod on plastic to the next level with, Chad Price or Precision or any of those individuals, that is a whole nother step above that production. That's sports production side. So there's a lot of variability when it comes to how grasses are grown. It's been exciting to see the difference. I think it was in 14 or 15. I mean, this was several years ago. It was before I had children. That's kind of how I base everything now. I did several presentations on kind of bridging that gap between the end user, a sports turf manager, a golf course superintendent, and the producer. And I did it presentation to producers and internally with our producers, and brought in Jared Minnick and Andy, a golf course superintendent from Florida, and Jordan Treadway, and said, hey, let's talk about what your expectations are for our growers. And let's educate them on, hey, if you want to sell to a high profile venue, or you're selling to a Parks and Recs, which still deserves the same quality, or you're selling to a golf course versus, a commercial property around a supermarket. That is a completely different growing practice. And so how do we do that? How do we manage that? What are the things that you need to put in place? It's not your entire farm that you do it, but maybe it's a 100-acre block or 50-acre block. You determine what that is. So we talked about the different growing practices that need to be put in place. And then also talking on the flip side, I did it at the Carolina show a couple of years ago, and I did it in Ohio.